Dear friends, today we are starting an interesting conversation with Benyamin Poghosyan, chairman at the Center for Political and Economic Strategic Studies in Yerevan, Armenia. As the 44-day conflict, already coined as a Second Karabakh War, ends and the people in the region wake up to the new geopolitical realities. Today, we are going to talk about the Armenian narratives which were constructed prior to, during, and after the conflict. Hi, Benjamin. Thank you for accepting our invitation and finding time for this interview.
Hello, Rusif, and thanks for having me, and thanks for this offer.
I really hope this very conversation will be interesting for big audience, both in Azerbaijan, Armenia, and outside world. Let me then start with the first question. As the war now ends and the control of a big patch of territory changes hands, how does the contemporary Armenian narrative construct the course of the war, its outcome, and the post-conflict state?
So regarding course of the war, now at least the assessment is that this was a complete failure of Armenia, and not only militarily but also diplomatically, because the situation showed we had no real allies during the war. We have a lot of statements calling for cease of hostilities with FIFA attempts, mediated by OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs, first by Russia, then France, then United States in Washington to stop the ceasefire. But eventually, nothing happened, and unfortunately, we had the November 9 or November 10 trilateral statement or trilateral agreement, which absolute majority in Armenia perceived as a capitulation, act of capitulation. So the narrative is that this is a defeat, this is a tough defeat, and this defeat was a result of both diplomatic and also a military failure, and both diplomatic and also military incompetence.
Thank you, Benjamin. I remember throughout the conflict, the Armenian leadership, society, and diaspora invested much energy and attention to the Recognize Artsakh campaign by usually referring to remedial secession, a vague and unclear principle in the international system. Why did Armenia itself not recognize the so-called Nagorno-Karabakh Republic both before and during the war? And did the Armenian side sincerely believe that the world powers step in to recognize this entity?
If we look into the problem or the issue of recognizing the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, prior to the war, prior to the September 27, 2020, the key reason why Armenia didn't recognize the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic independence was Armenia's desire not to hamper or not to obstruct the negotiation process. Because we all know that the key issue of the negotiation process, starting from May 1994, when ceasefire was signed after the First Karabakh War, the key issue was the status of Nagorno-Karabakh. So according to Armenian narrative, if Armenia recognizes Nagorno-Karabakh independence, it means Armenia fixes Nagorno-Karabakh status, and then mediators, especially these Minsk Group co-chairs, they may ask, okay, what are you going to negotiate about if you recognize Nagorno-Karabakh Republic independence? It means that the key issue for the negotiation has been solved, at least for Armenia, and thus Armenians or Armenian state thought that if Armenia recognizes Nagorno-Karabakh Republic independence, Armenia may be accused of destroying the negotiation process, and it will not only hamper or disrupt the relations between Armenia and OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs, but it also will give, let's put this way, a legal or at least moral casus belli for Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan may say, okay, we cannot negotiate because Armenia already fixed the status of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. Why Armenia didn't recognize independence of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic after September 27? Because always, both during the former authorities, the government which was in place before Velvet Revolution in 2018. And also after, there was understanding in Armenian political circles, at least, that yes, if Azerbaijan starts a large-scale war, we may recognize the independence, or we should recognize the independence of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. Because in that case, the key reason that, okay, we are not recognizing not to bring war closer, it loses sense because we already have a war. And even during the 4-day April War of 2016, Armenia was close to recognize the independence of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, or at least to sign some defense pact with Nagorno-Karabakh Republic without officially recognizing its independence. So when the war started on September 27, 2020, and it was obvious that this is a large-scale war, much larger scale than even April 2016 4-day war. So the logic should go that, okay, there is nothing which could hinder the Armenia to recognize Nagorno-Karabakh independence. No one could blame Armenia that by doing this, you simply make the war possible, because we already involved in a big, large-scale war. So it's very difficult to give a clear answer why Armenia didn't recognize Nagorno-Karabakh Republic independence after September 27. Before September 27 war, the reasons were clear.
I see. Thank you very much, Benjamin. The next question is about the information and propaganda warfare. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan got engaged in. During the war, many Armenian social media users would ridicule the Azerbaijanis, calling the latter brainwashed and the Azerbaijani news fake, also referring to the democratic and transparent nature of the government in Yerevan. But it turned out at the end that almost all the information coming from Azerbaijan was true or close to true, while the Armenian government usually misled its own nation. How come such smart people fell victim to this disinformation campaign and refused to believe what the world media reported about the advancing Azerbaijani army? Especially in the 21st century, when you have all types of information carriers around?
First of all, of course, I could not say that all information which came from Azerbaijan was true. And we all know that when there is a war, there is a propaganda. And propaganda is an integral part of the war. But regarding the information which was shared by Armenian side, yes, it came out that mostly it was, let's say, if not true, at least partly true or close to not true. I may only guess that by doing this, our leadership wants to keep the morale of Armenian society high, not to say that we are losing, etc. But this resulted also in the one more negative issue, because when on November 9, even in November 9, Armenia was forced to sign a capitulation, the huge portion of Armenian society was caught by surprise, and this triggered huge backlash. Because when during the fiscal 43 or 44 days, you are being told that yes, maybe situation is not good, and you know that at the end of October, Armenian Ministry of Defense published some maps showing that at least border territories along the Arax River have been now under control of Azerbaijani army. But in any case, there was information that the situation is not catastrophic, at least, and we have some chances at least to stop Azerbaijani attack and maybe to hope to regaining some territories. That is why the reaction of Armenian society to this capitulation of November 9 was so harsh, because people, they were simply caught by surprise. They didn't know that the situation was so catastrophic that Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh Republic has no other chances than to sign a capitulation.
I see. And which narrative do you think will prevail in Armenia in explaining the outcomes of the war and learning from them? That of high treason by Pashinyan, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and his circle, or the systematic systematic failure of the negotiations for the past 20 years?
I will not speak with legal terms like high treason or whatever, because they are legal terms, but definitely two narratives exist now. First, that our current government completely failed, both diplomatically and militarily, and it was a complete incompetence by their side. But also people understand that this was also the result of this 26 years of negotiation process, and also the 26 years of construction of the statehood. If we start this process from May 1994, when ceasefire was signed and the First Karabakh War was ended. So these two narratives are going in parallel, that the current government completely failed its obligation. This is clear. But also that previous government also, it not completely failed, but at least they could do much better not to have such outcome. So everybody understands that you could not have a capitulation only due to some wrong things which have been done during the 2.5 years of current government. So these two narratives are going in parallel, and it's very difficult to say at the end of the day, Armenian society which prefer what narrative or what narrative will prevail. But definitely there is a strong feeling that first, current government failed, and the second, the previous government at least didn't do their best, let's put it this way. So they, all previous leadership, I mean current leadership and also previous leadership of Armenia should be blamed or is blamed now for this current situation and capitulation.
I see. The first Karabakh War did not end the conflict, as the Azerbaijani side never agreed with the post-1994 situation, always leaving the military option open. But how do you think? Do you believe the result of the second war means the end of the hot phase of the conflict for good, forever? Although the conflict is obviously not resolved at all, there are still many questions. Although the emotions are too hot, the wounds too fresh, can you make some conclusion whether the post-war Armenian narratives are being constructed in more pacific or more bellicose, revanchist language?
Of course, it's very difficult to say what will happen in a midterm perspective, because war just ended and situation in Armenia also tense. But my understanding is that in general, Armenian society believes that this was only the battle. So just like Azerbaijan lost the battle, let's put in 1992, 1994, but Azerbaijan did not lose the war. So we lost the battle of late September, beginning of November 2020, but war is not lost. And definitely Armenian society is not going to accept current situation, especially regarding the territories, because especially the territories within the Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region in 1988 borders, and also much secure and much wider corridor connecting Armenia with Nagorno-Karabakh. This was absolutely red lines for Armenians. And if we look to the back options which were offered by OFTM's group co-chairs, like Key West option in 2001, and then Kazan document in 2011, Armenia was agreed to deliver or give back to Azerbaijan as part or large part of the security zone, but only for having either immediately fixing the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic status as an independent state or as a part of Armenia, or at least having clear mechanisms by which this future status of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic within its 1988 borders and much wider corridor that we have now, this 5-kilometer corridor currently connecting Armenian Karabakh, that this either the status should be fixed or at least mechanisms should be fixed for having this status in the near-term future. So I strongly believe that Armenian society will not accept the current situation, like having this approximately 3,000 square kilometer territory under de facto Russian control. So general view is that yes, we lost the battle, but this is not the end of the war. And so we should prepare for the next phase of war, which may happen, and I believe even sooner than 26 years. If we take into account the first war in 1994 and second in 2020, I don't think that something big will happen somewhere in 2046. Now, this is a narrative of Armenia that at least territories within 1988 borders of Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region, plus much wider secure corridor, should be returned under Armenian control, and everybody understands that this may be done only through another wave or another phase of hostilities. So this is at least current situation.
I see. Interesting. The major problem for realizing the so-called vision of compiled Armenia associated with such people as former President Levon Ter-Petrosyan or Gerard Libaridian was unwillingness to cede even a part of captured territory to Azerbaijan. Once they have been ceded anyway, do you believe this paradigm can gain ground? And Armenia, in order to keep and develop what it is what it has now will be ready to gradually normalize relationships with Azerbaijan and Turkey. You already said the Armenian society thinks the general conflict is not over yet. It may continue, but is there an opportunity for normalizing of relations with the two hostile neighbors?
Look, when we speak about the vision of Turkey and Azerbaijan, and when we are speaking that no one in Armenia was ready to give any territory to Azerbaijan, yes, there was parts of Armenian society who were saying no, any territory which was under Armenian control after 1994 should not be returned to Azerbaijan. But I would not say that this was a majority. Majority of population will say that, okay, we need Nagorno-Karabakh Republic as an independent or within part of Republic of Armenia, within its 1988 borders, plus secured land corridor with Republic of Armenia. And by saying secured land corridor, people at least understood the whole Lachin region of former Soviet Azerbaijan, if we're going into the former Soviet Union administrative borders, at least minimum. So this vision was acceptable for, difficult to say for the majority of population, but at least a large part of population was ready to say, okay, we are giving back some 80 or 90% of security zone if either Azerbaijan recognizes Nagorno-Karabakh independence or Azerbaijan recognizes Nagorno-Karabakh as a part of Armenia, or at least some clear mechanisms are being fixed that this independence Karabakh will gain within fixed time periods through future referendum or whatever else. So now we have a totally different situation. But if you ask me, is it possible to have some long-term reconciliation process between? This could be possible only if the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, within its autonomous region borders of 1988, plus secure land corridor, will be outside of Azerbaijani control, either independent state or part of Armenia, like which we have now, because we have now approximately 70% of former Nagorno-Karabakh autonomous region territories controlled by Russians, and it's a de facto territory with vague understanding to what its future will be, especially after 5 years, if after 5 years Russian peacekeepers is going to leave the region. This is definitely, at least from Armenian perspective, this is definitely not the way which may result in long-term normalization of relation between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And I'm not speaking about reconciliation between two people, because it's a much difficult issue, especially after both First War and especially after the Second War. So general perception in Armenia is that by shelling the Nagorno-Karabakh cities, Stepanakert, Maltakert, etc., by killing civilian population and also by killing several prisoners of war of Armenia, Azerbaijan again showed that nothing can be now done with Azerbaijan, and both with Azerbaijani leadership, which is perceived very negatively in Armenia, and also we strongly believe that due to this anti-Armenian propaganda of last at least 26 years in Azerbaijan, the large majority of Azerbaijani population is also has let's put this way, the hate feeling towards Armenia. So let's not speak about reconciliation between people, because it will take decades or maybe even 1 century, who knows, but at least for having normalized relation between two states like Armenia and Azerbaijan, again, the minimum society is to have Nagorno-Karabakh within 1988 borders plus wide secured land corridor with Armenia outside of Azerbaijani control. Any other solution, including the current one which we have now, it simply means that we will have another conflict. It's very difficult to say when it may happen or how, because regional and also global geopolitics is changing very rapidly. And of course, these regional and global changes will have also effect.
You partially answered to a question. I wanted to ask to develop this very topic. I wanted to ask whether you see peace and reconciliation on the horizon, and what narratives does the Armenian side need to construct for eventual peace, and what is the Armenian expectation from the Azerbaijani side for such long-term conciliation?
Frankly speaking, no one here in Armenia has any expectation from Azerbaijani current leadership. But also given the statements which was done by also Azerbaijani opposition during the war that we are supporting Azerbaijani authorities, we should take Karabakh war. In this case, we all are united. At least we have understanding in Armenia that no political force in Azerbaijan, maybe only few marginal people, they are not political forces. Maybe there are some persons which are marginalized in Azerbaijan who think the other way. But in general, all political forces, both the current leadership and the ruling party, Yeni Azerbaijan, and also these key opposition parties like People Front, Musavat, or Real, whose leader is currently member of the parliament, I believe. So in Armenia, there is a clear understanding that all these forces, all political forces in Azerbaijan, in opposition, ruling, small, big, they have clear visions that Nagorno-Karabakh should be part of Azerbaijan wholly. And according to our understanding, this means that no Armenian may live in Nagorno-Karabakh. So this means that unfortunately we have no expectation, at least for now, neither from Azerbaijani current leadership, nor from both opposition forces, whose theoretically at least may sometime in 2025 or who knows when come to power. So regarding expectations, there are zero expectations from Azerbaijani side as regarding the reconciliation process. And for normalization, as I mentioned, the only way which can result from Armenian perspective, which can result in normalization between two states and which may prevent the future war, which may start by different geopolitical consideration, of course, is the opportunity or the vision to have this Nagorno-Karabakh within 1988 borders plus wider and secure corridor outside of Azerbaijani control. Everything else, from Armenian perspective, will simply create a base for future wars or future hostilities.
Thank you, Benjamin. These were the main questions I wanted to ask. I do appreciate your answers. Thanks for shedding light to different narratives the Armenian side has been constructing during the conflict and after the November 10th statement. Dear audience, dear friends, today our guest was Benyamin Poghosyan, foreign affairs expert and chairman, Yerevan-based think tank. We talked about the Second Karabakh War, the post-conflict situation, mainly focusing on Armenian narratives.
Thank you.